from the News4Jax newsroom after the House of Representatives again, now for the ninth time, failed to come to a consensus to reach a majority on who will be the next Speaker of the House. Again, the Speaker of the House is a position it's second in line for the presidency in the line of succession. This is an incredibly important role. It's an important role, legislatively, administratively. Honestly, the House really is at a standstill. It literally can't swear in any of the members. So technically, all of these members have essentially missed out on 2 days of their term, in which they should be serving in Congress as we elected them to do. So that's the real impact of this standstill in Washington D.C. is being felt. I want to point to a post from one of the members who kind of talked about how this is already impacting the functioning of the U.S. government. Now, this is the Nebraska Representative Don Bacon. I'm going to read his tweet, what he tweeted about 2:30 this afternoon. He says, "My office was informed by an agency today that they cannot communicate with my staff regarding active casework because we are not sworn in yet." He says the handful holding up the speaker election is not helping Americans, but directly hurting them. So these members can't form committees. They can't get briefings like the members of the Security Committee, or who would be sitting on the National Security Committee, aren't getting national security briefings. So this is having a real impact. This sort of deadlock, this impasse that they're at. Now, you can point to whoever and blame. People can point to Kevin McCarthy and say, you shouldn't have given so much concessions. He should be able to corral the conference and get everybody together. Some people might point to these 20 or so members who have been staunchly against giving their support to McCarthy by saying just fall in line with the majority of the conference. Some people even might be pointing to the Democratic Party and pointed to them. Any 4 or 5 members could switch over and vote for a Republican and end this and get to work. But honestly, I mean, they're not legally, professionally, morally obligated to do that and vote for someone who they wouldn't want or support as speaker. So it's a tough situation, and it's really on the Republican conference at this point right now. I think I said this earlier, that a speaker or a prospective speaker in Kevin McCarthy's position could, in previous conferences, just go over and ask some Democrats, cut a deal. That used to not be so far out of the question, working with the other side of the aisle. These are just political parties, but things now, obviously, it's a very hyper-partisan political environment. So a Republican going over and asking for votes from the Democrats, or vice versa, seems pretty out of the question. It seems almost like a death sentence, particularly for these hardline Republicans. So what we have just seen, though, right now, they are now taking the 10th vote for Speaker. McCarthy now, and this is just as I'm reading this YouTube live, McCarthy has 61 votes, Jeffries 73, and 7 votes have been cast to other folks. Looks like Representative Hearn, Kevin Hearn from Oklahoma, is now sort of the new face of the opposition to Kevin McCarthy movement. Kevin Hearn has picked up 5 votes. Last ballot it was 2. The ballot before that, I think it was 1. But he's steadily, very slowly, it appears, already siphoning off some of the votes from Kevin McCarthy. But they may be being pulled from Florida Representative Byron Donalds. He's the other dark horse candidate. These 20 or so members who have been opposing Kevin McCarthy they first put Jim Jordan's name up, and even Jim Jordan, who's a very controversial representative, he even said he's backing McCarthy. He didn't want that post. He even voted for McCarthy. Then yesterday they put up Byron Donald's name, and he voted for himself. He said, he described it as he just wanted to see himself on a ballot. He thought it was cool that he saw himself on a ballot and wanted to vote, but that vote has remained consistent. He's consistently voted for himself and broke from the conference leader, Kevin McCarthy. So again, nothing can happen until this speaker vote, until they arrive at, this is kind of like, I'm going to say this in my 6 o'clock piece, but this is a lot like picking teams and setting rules before a pickup basketball game. You can't start until you know what the rules are going to be, you know how the leadership structure is going to operate and who's going to be doing what job. Awkwardly, I'll say, Kevin McCarthy, just because this is so normally a done deal, normally the person who wins the party's election is the one who goes on to win the speaker's chair. It's just so tight of a margin now that Kevin McCarthy needs all but 4 of the 222 Republicans. So that's a tall order. It's basically like asking everybody to get along and vote the same way. But here's the thing, that's going to happen with all the votes that require a simple majority. So this problem that we're seeing here isn't going away. And that, stacking onto that, one of the things that this coalition of anti-McCarthy Republicans is asking for is to lower the rule for basically the House to take a vote to kick the speaker out and replace him. They want that threshold to go down to just 1 member. So that would mean that if any one member asks or calls for a vote, they can do this whole process over again and do the whole replacing the Speaker of the House again. So they're sort of asking to have Kevin McCarthy, if he wants to be Speaker, put his head inside a guillotine and just wait, for any one member to call for a new vote for Speaker. So, and that's a concession that would significantly weaken the position of Speaker of the House. So that's why that's such a tough concession to make. Now, we've been hearing reports that Kevin McCarthy actually already made that concession, but that it wasn't enough, that didn't satisfy. It seems like that these people who are voting against Kevin McCarthy, they really just don't want him. There's nothing he can give them. The only concession is another candidate. So this seems to be a battle not over policy, but over power, over position in the Republican conference and in the leadership. And I'll point out again, this isn't necessarily Kevin McCarthy's destiny. It can be anyone. It's really anyone's game. He just happens to be the one who at this moment has gotten the majority of Republican House votes, but he needs a majority of the entirety of the House votes. So that's why it's such a sticky situation right now. So we're going to watch this. The real update here for sure, though, is that they're now on their 4th ballot of the day. The previous 2 days, Tuesday and Wednesday, they only took 3 of these long roll call votes. Basically, you have to call out 434 names, and each person verbally vote. So it's kind of it's like a 90-minute process, each one of these ballots. So they did 3 Tuesday. They did 3 yesterday, and now they're on their 4th today. So it appears like there's some sort of increased resolve to bring a resolution to this. But we're going to continue to watch it. It's sort of a slow process, but it's an incredibly important one. Again, Congress is at a standstill. Now, on the other side of the Capitol, the Senate comes back they have a few more weeks actually before they come back into the building. They come back on, I believe it's January 23rd, I want to say. But there's no signs right now. He's already poised to lose the 10th vote. So there's really no telling. There's no signs right now, public-facing signs, that this is going to slow down anytime soon. You have people. This is essentially a staring contest. This is a game of congressional chicken. And so, what are the possible outcomes? Well, Kevin McCarthy could say, okay, I don't have the votes. I will concede and we'll find another Republican to be Speaker of the House. You can imagine that would be an incredibly difficult thing for Kevin McCarthy to do, given that this is something that he's been looking at for quite a long time, leading the Republicans in the House for the past 4 years, I believe. So that's one scenario, though. He could step down and he could say, all right, we're going to go ahead and find someone else. The other scenario is he could lose support, and the Republicans in the conference could basically abandon him and start putting their votes behind Byron Donalds, or putting their votes behind Kevin Hearn of Oklahoma, who's now starting to get, looks like he's got 6 now. He's got half a dozen votes. It looks like he's bleeding them from Representative Donalds. But still, they're not going McCarthy's way. That's really the only point. That's the only thing that matters here. That the resolution comes when a majority of voting members. So basically, a majority of voting members. You just have to get 50% plus 1 of voting members. Now that means you need 218 if that's all the votes that get turned in. But as you can see there. If you're watching this on another screen, I'll show you I'm watching the ABC feed. You can see there the numbers. They have that one person voting present. What that means is they're essentially making their vote count, but not add to anyone's title. So essentially, what that lawmaker did there was essentially help the other party. That's a Republican, I think, from Nebraska, voted present, and so that present vote essentially helps the Democrats, because right now Hakeem Jeffries, in all 9 of these votes, and now all 9 of these votes, Hakeem Jeffries has been the top vote getter. He's gotten 212 to Kevin McCarthy's 201. Or 202 is the most votes that Kevin McCarthy has gotten. But again, number of votes doesn't matter. You've got to have a majority of votes. So we've been talking to the representatives from Northeast Florida here. Today I was in touch with Kat Kamick's office. We're going to be talking to her tomorrow. She was the one who actually nominated Kevin McCarthy last night on the 6th ballot. So we're going to be talking to her. She's continuing to put her support behind Kevin McCarthy. We heard from Mike Waltz. He is also staunchly behind McCarthy, continuing to vote there. Aaron Bean, we've seen continuing to stay in line, continuing to vote for McCarthy. So we're going to continue to watch this. Again, they're well into the 10th ballot now, and there's really no sign of this impasse coming to an end. So we are going to have to see how this plays out. I'm going to put my story on. We're going to have my story at 6 p.m. So tune in to News for Jax at 6, and I'll have an update on all of this, and kind of recap everything that we've seen so far that's notable. And we'll just keep watching. We'll just keep watching. It's historic. We've now surpassed the number of ballots, the number of ballots that it took 100 years ago. It took 9 ballots 100 years ago. Wait, am I wrong about that? It just went to the second ballot, or 9 ballots? I can't remember. Anyway, this is historically unprecedented, certainly in the modern era. The most ballots this has ever taken is 133, and it took like months, and that was back in the 1840s. So we have not seen this in any of our lifetimes. So it's quite extraordinary, and also harrowing. So we're going to continue to follow this. I'm going to get ready for TV, but leave us a comment or let us know what you'd like us to ask these members of Congress. I'm going to be interviewing Kat Cammack, Representative Kat Cammack, tomorrow at 10 a.m. So leave a comment in this YouTube live or send us an email, and we will go from there. Thank you very much for watching. I'll check in soon.